A similar, smaller list containing the names of Americans was reportedly told to media in Moscow by a Russian official. CCTV's Roee Ruttenberg is following that story for us. Roee, what do we know at this point?
Well, at the moment, Asier, not much. The U.S. State Department has just told me that they support the legal administration of visa laws and that they share the EU's concerns over the new Russian list, but did not confirm nor deny if there was indeed a second list. They recommended we check with the Russian government, and I did. The Russian embassy in Washington told me it was unaware of a second list, but said that it too was checking. Now, if confirmed, this would be the latest in a tit-for-tat of travel bans that goes back to 2011. That's when the U.S. blocked several Russian nationals it believed were associated with the Sergei Magnitsky case from entering the U.S. Magnitsky was a Russian financier who died in a Moscow prison after nearly a year in custody, pending charges. A Kremlin-backed review showed that he had been beaten, and American lawmakers were outraged. They passed the ban. The response from Moscow a year later was a ban of its own and also a ban on American couples adopting Russian children. It didn't stop there. The crisis in Ukraine and Washington's accusations that Russia had a hand in the unrest there brought more sanctions. The U.S. banned several Russian and Ukrainian nationals from entering the country. It also froze their assets in the U.S. A month later, Russia did the same, and there have been other bans or expansions of these bans, but officials on both sides are cautious to suggest this is a return to the Cold War era relations. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry was in Russia last month, and last week his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov told Russian media that Washington and Moscow's differences are in policy, not in ideology.
Roee, on another note, what can you tell us about this incident that the U.S. Navy says involved one of its carriers and a Russian jet? What do we know about that? And they actually released a video, the Americans did.
That's right. And that video shows the encounter. U.S. officials say in the Black Sea, about 40 kilometers off the coast of Crimea. That's the peninsula now controversially under Russian control. Now, the U.S. says these are international waters and that its destroyer, the USS Ross, routinely encounters low-flying Russian jets along the way. U.S. naval forces in Europe released this video you're seeing, saying they wanted to counter Russian reports that their planes were forcibly diverted the warship from Russian waters. The Navy said the aircraft were unarmed and they thought nothing of the encounter. But remember, all of this is happening in the same breath as the U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter warning on Monday that pro-Russian fighters in Ukraine were planning a summer offensive that he said was seriously dangerous. And he has also said the result is that the U.S. is closely monitoring Russian activities.